What up, y'all? I'm your girl, Lizzie P. I'm the host of Traveling While Mixed, where we're traveling while things are all mixed up, but a whole lot of fun. And today I wanted to talk to you guys about health while traveling. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this episode because it's like, who wants to really talk about health? But I figured it might be important. I am an insulin dependent diabetic. And I have not actually been a diabetic for very long at all. When I was supposed to go on a missions trip in January, I literally had went to the doctor because I started feeling like so bad, and I actually went to the optometrist first because I needed new glasses and like let me get those before I head to Kenya. And literally the optometrist said, "Hey, you have a cataract on your eye that is like something I would see on a 70-year-old. And that means that something has happened. I need to look deeper into your eye." And as he was looking, he said, "Oh, I think that you've been having diabetic retinopathy. And it is something where the blood vessels behind your eyes start to burst because your blood sugar goes too high. And it's very dangerous. You could lose your eyesight. And so you need to look into that. It could also be blood pressure. And so I had went to the urgent care when I was feeling like some numbness and tingling and stuff after that appointment. I had been trying to get a regular doctor's appointment. And if you know the slums of America, you know America, right? And so it was taking too long. And they said that my blood pressure was extremely high. And I was like, okay. So they gave me something to bring it down. And then they said, hey, like you're going to need to check in with your regular doctor. Again, another 2 weeks goes by. And I said, okay, like I need to see a doctor. And I started to feel even worse, even though I still had the blood pressure medication. That wasn't the only problem. So I went back to urgent care and they said, "Hey, your blood sugar and your blood pressure are extremely high. We need you to go to the emergency room." And I stayed at the emergency room, and literally they're like, talking to me as if I know what's happening. I'm like, "Hey, I actually know no information. I've been trying to see my regular doctor. The last time I came to urgent care is the only thing I know about this." And they're like, "Oh, well, your blood sugar is in the 400s and you could go into a diabetic coma." Surprise, surprise, Lizzie P. And I was just like, what? Because if you're new to me in general and never consumed any of my other content, I used to be like 275 pounds. I was, active in going to the gym. I lost so much weight. Like I lost a whole person. Last year, I was around 98 pounds. And by the time this was happening, I got up to around like 125. And so I'm just like, well, I'm not even wise large, but I did go through a lot of stress in my life in 2021, and that stress caused me to have a lot of physical issues that were like pain and extreme fatigue. A lot of people ask about the bottom row of my teeth. I couldn't keep food down because of the stress, and I literally watched a life pass away in front of me and part of the mission that I was on during that year. And I could not like keep food down from that day until 2022. And so the dentist had to do what they needed to do to make sure that my teeth were good in the beginning of 2022. And that was already very scary for me. So when it came to this, I'm like, what? I have people in my family that are diabetic, and I have known about being borderline diabetic, but I'm like, how could I just be full on diabetic? I eat like fruits and vegetables and I like things like that. And I eat meat, but it's not like the end of the world, like how I used to eat fast food all the time. I don't eat fast food anymore. But so that was a harsh reality. And they gave me some temporary medication. I went to the doctor and she got me on insulin and metformin, and I have a high blood pressure medication and a cholesterol medication because apparently if you're taking the other things for diabetes, then you could end up having high cholesterol. This was a huge shocker to me, and it all happened like a week before I was supposed to leave for Kenya. And so it was very devastating. And one of my leaders said, "Hey, the enemy's really trying to get you not to go. And this is one of the ways most people wouldn't go because of their health." But I had everything that I needed. I just had to start taking it and tracking it. So I had to learn how to like test myself with the blood and the little needles. And then I learned how to inject myself as well. And all of that was happening and I left. And I ended up in Hawaii and then I was in Greece. And so I used a lot of the medication I already had in Greece and made it through Rome, but I ran out of metformin at the end of Rome. And there they told me that I was going to have to go to the urgent care, pay to go to urgent care to get the prescription to get it filled. And I didn't end up doing it because it was such a horrible, horrific experience in Rome. And you should check out the last episode if you haven't heard about it yet. But I literally came to Paris after that. And I said, I think Paris is where I need to get the medication. And I ended up talking to someone at a local church that I visited. And she was like very gracious to help me figure it out. And she said, don't worry, it's not going to be a hard experience at all. And I was expecting for it to be one of the worst experiences of my life because it has been very difficult, even when I've had a full time job, to have health insurance on my own as a single woman in America. And if I haven't had it, it has been even worse. I got in a car accident one time and it was $70,000 for the CT scan that I wasn't even fully conscious for to approve or consent. So I had to like figure out that in how, the medical could cover that portion of it. I've worked places that kept me at like 30 hours exactly or 29 hours so that I couldn't get medical insurance. And I just didn't know how things worked here. So she said, well, I can make the appointment for you, but it's going to be English and they'll have a doctor that, it's telecommunication. I'm thinking, like, okay, like, am I going to go into a place and like it's a regular pharmacy? So she's like, it's a regular pharmacy. You just pay for the appointment and then the prescription will be filled right then and there. And it shouldn't be any issue. And I was like, okay, I was waiting for the catch. I was like, okay, but I'm like, so then I asked, I'm like, is there anything else I need to know? Like, can you tell me about how much it's going to cost? Um, I really hate to go all the way back to America to get my medication. And so she's like, "Oh, don't worry. It won't be anything. I'm not sure that I even know how much it is." And I'm like, well, I need to know because the urgent care in America is like you sneeze and it's $500. The emergency room could be 1,000. Ambulance ride is $500. Like, urgent care in actuality, I think in some places, in California specifically, they're 100. But I have gone and it's been like they were like $500, babes. And I was like, I don't got it, babes. Like, but I needed to breathe today. And so I literally was nervous. And she's like, well, let me call and I'll call you back. And she was like, it shouldn't be more than 35 euros. And I'm like 35 euros, that means like $35. That'll be like $40 American, right? And then she's just like, yeah, it's just like it's a very small amount. This is not America. I'm like, okay. So the place is actually just like maybe a 10-minute walk from me, the Airbnb that I was staying in during that time. And when I went,
Sorry, something was burning on the stove, like it was
okay,
residue.
okay,
I'm done beeping.
okay. Where do I want to start? Not done.
No.
Okay. So literally, it was a 10-minute walk from where I was staying in the Airbnb at that time. And I went, and there was like this very small room, and they were very kind even in there. And I'm learning French. So sometimes it can be difficult because there are people here that do not speak English at all, which is not their fault. It is my fault. I came to a country that, the main English is French. So I need to learn French. But they're so gracious to navigate it for you. And so she helped me log into the system because that didn't translate on there. But literally, like they put this little cap on you, like it's like a little safety cap. It's funny. And the doctor popped up on the screen, and I had a little headphone with a mic piece on it. And he asked me the questions about what was going on with my medication and what the names were and how much I take. And he just was like, it's no issue. Do you need anything else from me? And all this machine had all of the stuff to like measure your blood pressure, look in the scope to look in your mouth or your eyes. Like it was interesting because it was like all the instruments there. And they're sanitized and clean, and the room is sanitized, and it was just a completely different experience because I'm like, I just paid only 25 euros for it, actually. It wasn't even the 35, it was 25 euros. And so I was just like, this is how easy this was? Like, what do you mean? And he's like, okay, they'll fill your prescription. And so then this is the thing that really, really, really shocked me the most because the pharmacist comes and, is ringing things up. And I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on. Again, the traumatization of the States because I'm like, I can't get all this medication today. I was actually waiting for some more money, to be paid invoices, things like that. And so I was like, I only have a little bit in my budget to be able to do that. And I was like trying to see what each thing would cost. So the guy says 11 and 24 when he's talking about the metformin. But here in Paris, in the EU, because it's euros, right? We say in America, that would be $11.24, right? They say 11 and 24 because it's 11 euros and 24, I think the word would be pence, right? But no one says pence. So they just say 11 and 24 are 30 and 15 or, and some of them are not fluent in English, so they're already doing me a favor by saying it that way. But like I didn't get it. So I thought that the metformin itself was going to be around $30, which is already mind-blowing to me. $35 around there. And then my insulin pens, which are like you take by units, so it lasts for a pretty long time, but it comes in a box of 4. Those were only $40, and like I still can't believe it right now. Like it was mind blowing to me. Um, it would just cost nothing. So that at that point, I was like, okay, I just need the metformin. Can you hold this here for me? I'll come back at the end of the week and get the rest of it because I wasn't really clear. I wasn't sure on that how much the insulin pins were either because of the miscommunication and language barrier, right? But I'm like, whatever it is, I'm going to pay for it because I need it to live. And when we figured out that it was only $11.24, I was stuck. I was stuck. I was sending voice notes to people like, do you understand that this medication would be $400 back home? Do you understand that this insulin pen, it's like, this is thousands of dollars worth of medication? And they're like, oh, we're so sorry you have to pay so much because you don't have Social Security here. Because you don't have a number. Because you don't have security number. I'm like, it's fine. I'll pay for it. I need it to live. I need it to eat. So I literally go back at the end of the week because I'm like, well, I hadn't run out of the other stuff yet. So I'm like, let me go back. But I needed more like needles. So it's an 8 millimeter needle that I need to attach to this pen. And also I ran out of the testing strips for when I test my blood. And I was just like, I don't know if they're going to fit. The doctor had ordered them, but they weren't the right ones. So when I took the machine, they're like, oh, we can just give you a whole new machine. Now, before I left for America, it was a huge deal about this machine. The doctor didn't want to order a different one that she had put in. The other ones weren't available. Like it was like, oh, the machine by itself, it could cost a lot of money. You don't want to pay for that out of pocket. And I'm thinking, okay, great. The machine's going to be a couple $100s, but I need this to know where my blood sugar is. And they come back and they're like, oh, okay, so we added this, we put this in on for you, this on it for you. And I'm like, okay, so what's the total? And they like said, okay, so today with everything, needles, the reading machine, the testing strips, the actual insulin pens, $124. I can't tell you how excited I was on the inside of me because I was just thinking like, okay, as I'm long term staying in a place that I'm learning, like this is a huge expense that takes out of my budget to eat, live, experience things in Paris. And in actuality, it's $124, guys. And the easiest process. And then they printed out my prescription for me and they were like, when you run out, just come back. Here's your prescription, just so you know. And, you check in with the doctor if you need to do blood work. You can go do this here, do that there. It was the simplest experience. And I know that a lot of people don't travel because of their health or things like this, right? I've actually also want to highlight that I've never had a problem on any of the planes that I've taken. I've taken a plane from California to Hawaii, from Hawaii to Seattle. No. I took a plane from California to Seattle, Seattle to Hawaii, Hawaii to Seattle, Seattle to Paris, Paris to Greece, uh Greece was a train to Rome, Rome there was a plane to Paris, and no one has given me any problems with any of my diabetic medication at all. I actually carry it in a Ziploc bag. Can you grab it for me? I carry it in a Ziploc bag, every single part of it, and I put it in. I have a Louis Vuitton tote that it's a big tote bag, and I carry that with me with all my electronics and my medication. So I'll show you both. So this is like my big Louis that it's very dirty. And I carry it like this because I need it to be open for them to be able to take the medication out. And then this is my bag of medication. It's just a Ziploc bag. It has everything that I need to test myself. The thing is that you do, even with these, so the 8 millimeter needles, they come like pre-wrapped, but they do need to be still in a package or in a container that closes, right? So you just want to make sure that everything is organized and closed, and they're not going to think that you're going to tax somebody with your medication. They don't even ask. Like when I was first going, I was very nervous, and I'm like, I have medication in there, like I hope it's okay, because I'm thinking needles, like TSA in America is a lot more extensive than other countries. Like they're not bothered. They were not worried about anything in my bags, and nothing was a thing. And I have TSA pre-check. I don't have the one for global though, but I've never had a problem. And so I just want to encourage those of you that are having experiences or have experienced traveling locally, where you're just like, well, how would I do this internationally? What would happen if something happened to my medication or I needed more? Like, is that even possible? It actually is easier. And I want to encourage you to actually go do it, because I feel like I've heard other diabetic people be like, oh, well, I don't want to travel because I have to take my medicine on the 24-hour flight, or I don't want to do this. I did have to inject myself on my flight from Seattle to Paris initially. But it wasn't difficult. I did it on my arm because it was like I have a fatty piece on my arm to do it into. But it was easy. The flight attendants were very gracious. It wasn't a problem. I feel like my diabetes has not inhibited my travel at all. It hasn't made it an issue, hasn't made it a problem. It actually has been one of the smoothest things, besides me getting to know the levels and understanding what's changing in my body or what my body feels like. And I think just being a person that deals with high stress situations and stuff like that, this is how I probably missed it. My sugar, now that I know what it feels like for it to jump or for it to go really high or drop really low, I was experiencing that for a lot longer than I realized. My eyes are still very much an issue. I'm seeing a lot better these days as my numbers even out and I get them lower and lower, which has been a thing while I've been in the EU, to be honest. I feel like the food is a huge contributor to it. I eat a lot more fresher food. If you follow on TikTok, you will see, or if you follow me on my personal Instagram, I post a lot about the fruit stands and the produce stands that I visit. The chicken is even smaller. Like chicken breast in America can be really big. It's very small here. The meat at the fresh delis, like it's just a very different experience, but also I'm physically walking a lot more. I actually just text my mom, hey mom, this morning. And I asked her about my sugars, because I was like, well, my sugar had been at 78. Is that too low? And because I had never seen that number yet. And I'm trying to get to a healthy levels, right? When I first started going to the doctor for this, my normal blood sugar rate was at 250. That's high. And then through the process of like this whole year, it has been floating in the like 100 range, 135, 148, sometimes when I wake up in the morning, and that's still too high. And so recently it has came down, but I also think that here in Paris, there's a culture of like walking and taking the metro. And so we got a metro cards for the month of April, and that was I think it came out to 98 American dollars. I think it was like 89 euros or something like that. And that card gets you on the bus, on the train, all of that. And so walking to the train station, walking off the train, just walking around, and there's tons of stairs here. My God, there's too many stairs to be honest, but it's okay. I'm adjusting. Um, it's been really good just for me to walk, right? And if you're diabetic, you know that they recommend for you to walk. And so I think as I more so embrace the peace of this environment, and honestly, most of my stressors are back home in America. It's just real. And so here it's been very peaceful for me, and my Airbnb experiences and looking for a sublet has been very difficult. That's a whole nother episode. But that has not even like really stressed me to the point of just peopling and their issues. But I think for me, the culture of fresh food and walking has really helped my numbers to get into a very great space where I could get off of insulin or metformin, if I keep going in this direction. It's crazy because the doctor told me that I wouldn't necessarily need to lose any more weight. That wasn't the problem. But my eating habits, and like I'm a person that didn't eat a lot before. I still have to be reminded to eat sometimes. I will say that. And I'm also on a schedule now of like when I wake up and I take my blood sugar at the same time and I eat my breakfast at the same time. I don't always eat all meals. You may have heard something boiling in the back. I am boiling potatoes for mashed potatoes tonight. But like having a balanced meal, and like even with that, having a proper portion of the starch in my meal, not having the most sugary fruits always, right? Like I just tended to like the most sugar filled fruits. um and not eating tons of candy. So candy was my vice, and soda for sure. So if you know me and you know what I like to stay up for, it would be Coke. Coca-Cola was a chokehold in my life. I rarely have them, but also there is Coca-Cola available in the EU that does not have high fructose corn syrup, and it is the real sugar. And so for me, it's a lot easier to measure, and I'm not downing a case of 12 in a week or sometimes sooner if I'm trying to stay up to work. It's that entrepreneur content creator type life. There was a time where I wasn't eating meals as much and I was just drinking Coke, and eating snacks and candy. And so I very much miss candy. I will say that, but I don't eat it anymore because I want to be able to keep doing the things that I'm doing. And I want my eyesight to fully recover. I'm faith filled, and so I pray about it all the time as well. And I've seen a lot of improvement, and I'm no longer seeing those like blood floaters that they look black. I still get clear floaters, but that's very normal for what's been happening and the changes. In some days there's no floaters. And so I think I wanted to share a lot of this in more detail than someone probably would, because for one, I don't mind transparency, but for two, I want you to know that it's possible. It's okay that you have a health condition and you want to see the world. It's okay that you have things that you have to prepare for. I think when I was at the Palace of Versailles was the first time that I realized that like I couldn't do what I've done before. And me and my assistant were already prepared because I had put gummy bears in her backpack that day. But like I was doing so much walking, viewing the palace. And by the time we were going to go outside to go to the gardens, I realized I needed more than a snack. Because before I would just power through a day like that and then go eat. And that's just not even healthy for most people. But we do that when we're trying to budget. We do that when it's like, oh, who wants to stop the experience to get a bite to eat and then go? But we were able to navigate that even with the group that we were out with, and it wasn't a big deal. And I think sometimes we think that these things will be such a big deal, but it wasn't. And then I had like another meal that night, and then we went out to another place to end the night. And so I was able to grab another bite or snack, right? And so with diabetes, you're supposed to have more smaller meals and, snacks that are going to be fulfilling. And you just have to plan for that. The reason I put gummy bears is because I wanted, if my sugar dropped too low, for something to pull my sugar back up. And I didn't have any hard candies. That's different, I would say, in the EU. Is this can be a little harder to find something to carry around with you. But you know what? There's always freshly squeezed orange juice around everywhere. So, you can find fresh juice to bring your sugar up as well. People don't have diabetes that much out here, though. So that's the interesting part, is that I feel like French people I've encountered, they don't even know the parameters of diabetes because it's not a common thing in their culture. They know more about asthma, though. They know asthmatique, I know. And so for me, I am learning that I don't want to be limited or stopped just because I have needs, right? My body has needs, and your body may have needs, and you may be in a little bit of pain, or you may have to navigate it to understand or see, or you may be in no pain at all, right? It may help you to go and be in a different place, but it doesn't take as much planning as you think. The stores here, grocery shopping has been very, 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 very integral in this for me. I have not had a bad grocery shopping experience. If anything, the bad things that I love from back home are not available to me. So it's been even more helpful in my discipline. I am a very disciplined person when I decide to do something, and I decided, but sometimes it's like, I just really want this, right? And so, like, even with ice cream, there's very limited options of ice cream, right? I could get in trouble with bakeries and pastries and things like that. But honestly, it's just like, I'll take a section of it, or I'll eat a portion here and then a portion later. It's much less of a problem. And I don't want you believing that you don't get to have experiences just because your body has needs. Your body has needs, and you get to experience life. Not a big deal, babes. You can do it. And so if you have any questions, if you're confused about anything I said, or you just want to know a little bit more, make sure that you comment. Thank you again, guys, for engaging on social media with me. I am having so much fun. I think one of the top social media posts this week was about, if sublets wanted my soul, what do you want? A car, more money, my soul? Because it's real, right? They want everything and a bag of chips. And, sometimes you don't got the bag of chips. But that is going to be our next episode around here on Traveling While Mixed, finding a sublet. I know a lot of people have had questions about how to actually be out here in these European streets and navigate Airbnbs and navigate for Bo and all of that stuff. It can be quite tricky, but I'm going to give you hope that it's possible, because I am at the end of April and I am still successfully living in Paris without being on the streets, not one single time. And as you can see my background today, I'm in a very lovely Airbnb right now, and it's my fave. I actually don't want to leave it, and I don't even know if they're still booked up, but like, I'm just like, can I stay? Please, please, please let me stay. So yes, guys, I love you so much, and I hope that you are traveling and having a whole lot of fun. Until next time, toodles.